All right, let's jump right in. We're taking a look at Tanzania's Mfwele district. It's an absolutely beautiful place, but for the people who live there, life is, well, it's a constant balancing act. They're living right on the edge of these huge protected wildlife areas. And this is the front line, where the worlds of humans and nature are colliding, and the stakes are incredibly high.
And make no mistake, this is not just a story about animals. I mean, look at this image from a camera trap. This tells you everything. At its core, this is a story about an intense and sometimes desperate competition for resources, for land, for food, and really for survival itself. So that really brings us to the big question we're tackling here. When you have people and wildlife literally fighting for the same piece of ground, what does that front line actually look like day to day?
As you're about to see, it is way more complex and a lot more personal than you might imagine.
Okay, so to get our heads around this, we're going to break the problem down into three main parts. Think of these as the three major battlegrounds where this conflict plays out in people's everyday lives in the Mfwele district.
First up, and this is the big one that affects almost everyone, is crop destruction. I mean, for these communities, farming isn't just a job, it's everything. And all it takes is one night, one visit from the wrong animal, to completely wipe out a family's food and income for an entire season.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. You'd probably guess that elephants are the #1 problem, right? And yeah, they cause huge damage, but they only account for about 16% of these raids. The real day-in, day-out pressure actually comes from greater kudu and bush pigs. They're the ones creating this constant, grinding problem for farmers.
But when the elephants do show up, wow, the impact is just on another level. This quote from a local farmer says it all. Can you imagine that? 300 kilograms. That's not just a snack for an elephant. That's a family's entire harvest, their livelihood, gone just like that.
So the struggle doesn't just happen in the fields. The second major front line is livestock predation. For so many families, their goats, their cattle, that's their savings account. It's their entire economic security. And those assets are incredibly vulnerable. And this chart really shows you how serious that threat is. It's basically a dead heat. According to the communities, lions and hyenas are tied for the #1 spot, each responsible for almost 38% of attacks on livestock. This isn't some rare, unlucky event. For these families, it's a constant, nightly fear.
And that brings us to the third and honestly the most terrifying part of this conflict. We've talked about crops and livestock, but now we're talking about direct threats to human safety. This is where the struggle becomes a matter of life and death.
And the data here, it's just heartbreaking. In one village, Ibela Mafipa, a child was killed by a lion, and then a few years later, an adult. In another village, a child was attacked and killed while they were sleeping. I mean, these aren't just entries in a table. These are devastating tragedies that show you the ultimate price of living on this front line.
So we've seen what this conflict looks like. But the next logical question is, why? Why is this happening? What are the real root causes that are pushing people and animals into this dangerous collision course? Well, this number right here is a massive piece of the puzzle. An annual population growth rate of 7.1%, that is just staggering. To put that in perspective, it means the human population in this region more than doubled in a single decade. That creates unbelievable pressure, forcing settlements deeper and deeper into areas that used to belong to wildlife. And it's not just one thing. It's more like a perfect storm. When you ask the communities themselves, they point to a whole web of issues. You see that almost everyone, 94%, agrees that increased human settlement is a driver. But right behind that, you have encroachment, climate change, deforestation. They're all interconnected, squeezing the available space for everyone. And this slide really brings that pressure to life. On the left, you can see on the map just how close these villages are to the protected areas. I mean, they're right on top of each other. And then on the right, you see the consequence. People and their cattle are using the very same land, the same corridors as the wildlife. There's just no buffer zone left. So with all this happening, how do the people living there actually feel about the wildlife around them? You'd think it would just be pure anger and fear, right? Well, the human side of this is actually really fascinating and much more complicated. Let's dig into that. To even begin to understand this issue, you have to listen. These aren't just subjects in the study. These are the real experts. These are the people on the front lines sharing their firsthand experiences. Their voices are the most critical part of this entire story. And sometimes, a single quote can say it all. This one from a resident in Gombe village is just incredible.
You might even greet one thinking it's your neighbor. That just perfectly captures the shocking, unnerving proximity of it all. The danger isn't miles away in the bush, it's literally at your doorstep.
But here's the twist. It's not just fear. This relationship is incredibly layered. On one side, absolutely, you have the devastating financial losses and the constant fear for your family's safety. But on the other side, there's this deep, enduring cultural significance. Lion skins are part of ceremonies. Elephant dung is used in traditional medicine. It's this amazing mix of resentment and reverence, all living side by side.
Okay, so given how complicated this all is, how on earth do you start to fix it? Let's turn to the path forward now and have a look at some of the solutions being proposed to shift from this constant state of conflict towards something that looks more like coexistence. What's great about these recommendations is how practical and community-driven they are. This isn't about building bigger fences from the top down. It's about empowering the community with things like rapid response teams, better early warning systems that use local knowledge, and actually enforcing the land use plans that are supposed to protect them. It's all about making the community part of the solution. And here is just a brilliant example of an innovative solution in action. It turns out elephants are terrified of bees. So, by setting up beehives around farms, you create a natural, living fence. And the best part? It not only protects the crops, but it also creates a whole new income stream for the community through selling honey. It's a total win-win.
And that leaves us with this final, crucial question. The challenges, let's be honest, they are enormous. They're rooted in huge issues like population growth and climate change. But with smart, creative solutions that put local people at the very center of the strategy, is it possible to build a future where both people and wildlife can find the space they need, not just to survive, but to actually thrive together? That's the challenge and the hope for this incredible place.